Madam Ingrid Husselmann has served as a children's advocate in the Office of the Ombudsman since November 2018. The position of children's advocate was created as part of the Child Care and Protection Act. As she bows out to make way for a new children's advocate, we sit down with the lady herself to reflect on her tenure as the children's advocate. Good morning, Ms. Husselmann, and welcome to Good Morning Namibia.
Good morning, Denver. Thank you for having me.
How are you doing on this gift of a Monday?
Fabulously. Thank you so much.
Yes, we're very happy to have you and to reflect a bit on your journey.
I'm very happy to be
When
here.
it started for you in November 2018, what is it that you envisioned to accomplish in this role?
I was certainly very excited back then, and I think the most my primary goal was to raise as much awareness as possible around the role of the children's advocate and just children's rights, because I wanted to see, and I still want to see, a Namibia where children and young people especially can be heard and they can just live fulfilling and safe lives.
Heard, seen and validated.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. Now, being in a position of this nature, given all the responsibilities, certainly could not have been a walk in the park. Please walk us through both the highlights, but perhaps also the challenges that you encountered.
Yes, certainly. There's been a lot of highs and a lot of lows, and I think for me the first and most important high was when the Child Care Protection Act finally came into operation in January of 2019, because that piece of legislation had been a long time coming. So we were very excited about that. And then one of the low points was definitely in 2020 with lockdowns because of the pandemic, which meant that we could no longer do face-to-face engagement with children, because before we used to go out to schools and we had a My Rights, My Responsibility campaign. We went to go talk to children and hear from them as well. And so we could no longer do that. But on the upside, that led us to develop like a media campaign, which saw us creating certain adverts, radio and animations for television. So we are certainly very excited about that. And then in December of 2020, we received a complaint regarding children in custody, which then children being detained together with adults in police holding cells, which saw us going to court and getting eventually a court order in our favor for the release of the children, but also for the Minister of Gender having to supply us with a program and plan for when she intends to implement a certain chapter in the Child Care and Protection Act, which basically makes provision for pre-trial detention of children who are in conflict with the law. So that is like also an ongoing process for us.
Now, because your most critical stakeholders are children, of course, they are minors and many of the engagements would be confidential in nature. But without divulging any of the nitty-gritties, which are the matters, apart from the ones that you just raised, that you will remember for a long time?
Yeah, we have certainly received a lot of complaints regarding children over the past 4 years, but there's been certain just heartbreaking things like community hostels, the state that they are in. And I know that there was one particular sad instance where we found like just primary school children living in these hostels, and one of these hostels, and it was in the heart of winter, and these children were just sleeping on cement floors, no mattresses. And with our intervention then, the Ministry of Education supplied them with beds and mattresses. And then there's just been other little things, complaints regarding children not being able to attend school because they're not registered, which is like a far too common occurrence. And with our intervention also, these children were allowed, because children are not, schools are not allowed to not admit children because they don't have birth certificates. So they were then admitted in school but also registered subsequent to that.
Do you have any regrets?
One in particular, which is that since my appointment, also saw the resignation of the then chief of the office, which meant that I had to wear multiple hats over the past 3 years, which meant that I couldn't like totally dedicate myself to the role of children's advocate. So that would be my only regret.
Now, the Office of the Ombudsman often comes under fire for allegedly being a bulldog without teeth. That aside, the Children's Advocate is a responsibility, a role that resorts under the Office of the Ombudsman. Many may not be familiar or understanding of what exactly the role comprises. Can you briefly touch on that?
Well, the role was purposefully put there. Okay, so there must be a person who speaks for children, because children are especially vulnerable due to their age and their levels of development. And because the Ombudsman is responsible for protection and promotion of human rights, and children's rights are human rights, it only makes sense that the person be placed in the office of the Ombudsman. It stems basically from a recommendation that was made by the Committee of Experts on the Convention on the Rights of the Child, to say that there must be this independent person and it must be a high-level person in order to influence policy and decisions when it comes to children in the country. So it's very important.
I wish we had more time, but we don't. So now your new responsibility will be part of one of the hats that you wore over especially the last 3 years. Talk to us very briefly about that.
I'm very excited about it because the institution of the Ombudsman is extremely important, and I'm looking forward to some strategic planning in terms of like which areas to focus on, especially in terms of human rights protection.
Any final thoughts this morning before we let you go?
Just once again, I cannot let an opportunity pass by without telling people that the services of the Ombudsman are free, the services of the Children's Advocate are free, and if you know anything about a child's rights being violated, please do not hesitate to contact our office.
And your successor, Ms. Heather Harker, starts in that role today.
Yes.
Congratulations to her there, and congratulations to you as well.
Thank you so much, Dina.
Thank you for your time, and thank you for your dedication to the rights of children in this country.
Welcome. Thank you.
There you have it, Madam Ingrid Husselmann, outgoing Children's Advocate, new chief in the Office of the Ombudsman, talking to us about the 5 years that she was in that role and the huge responsibility, but also how she executed the role of the Children's Advocate.